Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Inside the Pigskin. My name is Scott Morgan of Motor City Mad Mouth. Glad to have Jeremy Ball, Rick Melfar Jr., Tom Shanahan, and Candy Eveling alongside of me tonight. This what we have here tonight, the NFL teams making pre-draft moves, was where the chess game definitely starts. Everybody knows the crew, and this show will take a break until May 19th. As Candy and I get ready to go overseas, and I'm sure the crew will definitely be glad to have a little bit of a breather as well. So, with that said, I gave you your fast introduction so we could go to a more rapid fire format, and we're going to start out by going it this way. We're going to talk about teams that were wiped out by the transfer portal this year. Penn State had 46 departures. West Virginia had 44 departures. Arkansas and Mississippi State had 38 departures. Michigan State, Tommy, they had 37 departures. Auburn and Florida State had 36 departures. And Cal had 35 departures. Colorado and Washington State had 34 departures. Okay, Tommy, we're going to start off with you. Let's go out there and assess exactly what is taking place with all this. Hi, Eddie. We're going to bring you on some shows, so stay tuned. Tommy, let's size up these departures and who got.
So we're going to talk about the departures?
Yeah. Yep. Want me to go over the list again?
That's the way, that's college football. That's, almost every school has a different story to tell, though. Some schools are losing players because of coach move, and they're also they might be coming off a losing season. Other schools are losing players because they don't have enough money to pay them.
Right.
I know in the case of Michigan State, although they might have lost 37 guys, a lot of them were given rides to the airport because they couldn't play. So a lot of these guys that have left a lot of schools haven't found a landing spot. Penn State, a lot of those guys I think have followed Coach Franklin to Virginia Tech, or they see other players brought in at their position, so they're going to leave. It's just the wild, wild west, and it's not good for college football, in my opinion, because you don't know who's on your team.
Good point. Candy?
You know, nearly 200 FBS scholarship quarterbacks moved, with 40% of them being repeat transfers. Yes, I get if your coach leaves, they're the ones that recruited you. Typically, you go to their program. So if they move on, a lot of them wanted to move on. Some of them just don't have the NIL opportunities. And some of them thought they'd have more playing time. And so if they're not getting playing time, they're going to go to some place that's going to give them the playing time because they want the recognition. They want more money. So I understand, Oklahoma State after Mike Gundy's firing, Iowa State after Matt Campbell left, Penn State, and some of these other haven't had winning seasons. Florida State, look where they are after the last couple years. So I understand in this day and age. I mean, I don't like it transferring as much as they are, but I understand from their standpoint why they're doing it.
Mel?
Yeah, I think Tom hit the nail on the head, and I think Candy did as well. When you're talking about coaching changeover, you're going to have those situations when the coach leaves, players are going to leave because the guy who recruited them is no longer there. In some cases they follow him. In some cases they look for greener pastures elsewhere. We have a new coach come in. Obviously, he's not going to try to lose with the same players that just got the previous coach fired. So he's going to bring in some new players, some fresh blood. But this is just college football, the way that college football is right now. Even if there are no coaching changes, if you're not getting the amount of playing time that you feel that you deserve, then you're looking to transfer and hopefully get some playing time somewhere. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's college football, whether it's college basketball. You see this stuff going on all the time, and it's in both men and women's sports. I'm not really a big fan of it. I believe that you should make a decision to go to school based on where you're going to get a quality education, and how that's going to affect you for the rest of your life. These kids now are just going to school simply to they're chasing money and looking for the biggest paycheck and hoping to get an opportunity to play. Nobody wants to compete. Quarterbacks don't want to compete for starting jobs. They want to be given starting jobs. So they leave one place where they leave a place and go somewhere else and hoping that somebody will give them a starting opportunity. You can't develop as a player by doing things like that.
Jeremy.
Well, there was 4,543 total players that entered the transfer portal this year, and 1,002 of them have either no school available or as withdrawn from the transfer portal, as in they don't have a team. This is a travesty. This transfer portal, coupled with NIL, coupled with the coaches leaving and everything else, all of this is compiled to, once the recruiting's done, they won't have a school to go to.
Yeah, see, one of my future guests that everybody should get familiar with, his name is Mike Kelly, who's working for I think the new Continental Football League is going to be on here at some point or another. Right now, he's so busy getting his league for him. And when he does come on, he has a league that a lot of these guys that end up landing to, so it's a good point. All right, let's talk about some of the undefeated college football teams since 2010. I'll list them. Obviously, we know about Indiana in 2025 being the latest, Michigan in 2023. 2022, you had Georgia. 2020, you had Bama. 2019, you had LSU. 2018, you had Clemson. 2017, UCF, although I will call that a pseudo national championship. Okay, because that's exactly what in their minds it is. 2013, you had Florida State. 2012, you had Ohio State. 2010, you had TCU. 2010, you had Auburn. And there you have it. So, with that said, okay, let's talk. Which of that group, which one do you think was probably the most interesting one, Jeremy? I'll let you start with this.
I'm going to say Bama.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. Any reason?
They've been the top dog for so long, and the fall off this year is what it is. But that was one of those years where they had a fall off and yet still prevailed sort of in the SEC.
Okay. I like that answer. Great stuff, Jeremy. All right, Mel.
I mean, I would say Indiana with the gauntlet that they had to go through in the Big Ten this past year, coming from where they came from, even though they had the phenomenal season the year before. But, the Big Ten is big boy football, the gauntlet that they had to go through in the Big Ten, and then what they had to go through in the college playoffs. And to be able to sustain that level of play week in and week out for the number of weeks that they played, I think it was 16 weeks. I think they went 15 or 16-0 this past year, and winning the Big Ten championship, playing in the Big Ten championship game, winning the Big Ten championship game. So I mean, that's a tough schedule. I mean and so I think that's very impressive, especially coming from where they came from, out of nowhere.
Okay, Tom.
Yeah, Indiana was a fun team to watch. Another team I guess I would mention is LSU. They were dominant in spite of Ed Orgeron as the coach. So that was pretty impressive. And then I've got to mention my hometown's team, Big Rapids, Michigan, Ferris State University. They've won 4 or 5 of the last NCAA Division II titles, and they were undefeated this past year after losing Trinidad Chambliss to Ole Miss.
Okay. Candy.
Yeah, I'm gonna be on the Indiana bandwagon here. Only 2 teams have ever finished 16-0. Yale back in 1894, and now Indiana in 2025. We never thought of Indiana as a football school. It was always a basketball school. And I think for Kurt Signetti to take the program like he did and turn it around so quickly, I think surprised a lot of us. Kudos to him being a good coach. And let's face it, there wasn't a ton of transfer portals on that team either. So kudos for him and Indiana.
Yeah.
Kinzer, good to see you, brother.
All right, Jeremy, you're going to have to start. One of your responsibilities going forward, my friend, is I want you to start monitoring the chat room. Okay.
I am.
He has done a little bit.
Good job. That's okay. I want to keep you. How do you not go with Indiana? But my honorable mention will be Michigan, because that team with Jim Harbaugh was on a mission to win it, and they obviously followed through despite the coach getting suspended, and they had another guy taking his place. So anytime your head coach gets suspended,
and they also cheating. And they were also cheating.
I get it, Tommy. I know. Well, number one, you don't like Michigan anyway, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, you're right. I'm not going to say that they weren't cheating or they were stretching the rules a little bit, because we know, but they got punished heavily for it. But I'm with you. Hey, but I'm not taking away from Kurt Signetti. This guy came out of nowhere. He came from James Madison University. All he did was turn Indiana, who ends up walking into the college football playoff, and beat the daylights out of Alabama. I mean, think about it. If you would have saw this matchup, Indiana and Alabama years ago, you'd have thought the Crimson Tide would have whooped them. But the one time that these two end up meeting, it was Indiana. And it almost looks like the football team beating the basketball. I'm sorry, it almost looks like the basketball team beating the basketball team, and now you have football against football with Indiana coming on top. So I'm with it. I said honorable mention, Tom. I didn't say that was a primary one. I went with y'all. Okay. And it was in the okay, everybody's spoken on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? It's Dabo time, because actually Dabo Sweeney came out and said that colleges need to do better with 98% of the college football players who won't make the NFL. Jeremy kind of alluded to that. Nobody wants to write about all these kids in the portal that aren't going anywhere. I believe college football is set up to roar 2% that can make it to the NFL. We should do better with the 98% that will not play in the NFL. Jeremy, you kind of tipped your hand on this. Now you can continue tipping it some more.
Well, in the Power 5 conference alone, the number of transfer portal students uncommitted is 600. That's 60%. Group of 5, the AAC, Sunbelt, MAC, CUSA, and Mountain West are 300 to 350, and 50 to 100 are out of the FCS or Division II and JUCO colleges, as well as international players. But what he's talking about is the fact that only 2% of every roster combined through all of the divisions make it to the NFL. This isn't about who can't play in college. This is more about who can't play at the next level. You know, it goes back to the age-old adage: 1 in 10,000 kids get drafted.
Well,
the system is Dabo's complaining because he's not winning right now. I don't think, and he's not the big guy. He's not sitting on top of the mountain like he was a number of years ago, really kind of reigning over college football with the things that they were doing there in Clemson. Being able to beat the likes of Alabama and winning a couple of national championships, 1 or 2 national championships, whatever the case may be. But, and again, it goes back to what I've been talking about. I mean, kids aren't going to school to get an education anymore. Kids are going to the highest bidder. That's what they're doing. They're going to get paid. They don't care where that degree comes from. That doesn't matter to them anymore. And, a lot of that starts at home. A lot of that starts with your coach. It starts with your family, making those type of decisions. Only a small percentage of these players are going to go professional. In professional football, they're going to become professionals in something else, and they need to prepare themselves for life after football, because there will be a life after football, whether you make it to the NFL or not. And so those are conversations that coaches need to have with these kids. These are the type of conversations that my coaches had with me when I was in college, and hopefully these coaches are still having these types of conversations with these young kids now. Not all of them are going to make it to the NFL. The vast majority of them will not make it to the NFL. The NFL is for the elite of the elite. What they are getting is an opportunity to earn money in college, for their play, which is something that we did not have the opportunity to do. And so they're able to get a much greater head start than we were able to get, than we had. If they play the cards right and they put that money away, they'll be able to, retire at a very young age. Retirement is not an age. It's not 59 and a half or 62 or 65. Retirement is a number. It's when you've accumulated enough money to whereas you can live off of the rest of your life and never have to go back to work again. That's what retirement is. If they put that money away, if they're smart and put that money away, put it in a mutual fund, utilize the global economy, then they could retire at 40, 45, 50, whatever young age. They won't have to work to their 65, 70 years old. The reason why you see those old people at Walmart, those greeters at Walmart, they're not there because they want to be there. They're there because they have to be there, because they have a lot more a month than money, and that's why they're there working at Walmart. So these are just conversations that you have to have with young people, hard conversations that you have to have with young people. Some of them will take to it, some of them won't, and it would be the same number of people taking that that would take that conversation to heart, regardless of whether they had NIL or not. It's going to be the same people who are going to fall on hard times prior to NIL that are going to fall on hard times after NIL.
Great points, Mel. All right, Tommy.
Yeah, I don't think anything's really changed. It's always been that way with college athletes, that most of them aren't going to make it to the NFL. But the only difference now, of course, like it's already been said, is now that they can make some money, even though they aren't star players. Everybody's getting paid something. Yeah, I don't think anything's really changed. It's just a different background to it now.
Candy.
Well, he's talking about the lack of emphasis on education. Let's face it. He believes the system should prioritize developing the 98% of players who won't play in the NFL rather than focusing solely on the 2% that do. He really wants to go back to focusing on graduation, and these kids aren't focusing on graduation. They're focusing on making as much money as they can in college sports, whether it be depending on what their sport is. But and he also said that former walk-on is concerned about roster changes, potentially eliminating the ability for walk-ons to join programs because you have so many transfers and stuff like that. So I think that's interesting. I had never thought about how many walk-ons have made it in college and then in the pros. So we'll see where this college landscape goes from here.
Well, that's a great segue to what he also said, because he says that when he talks about screwed up 30-year-olds, that too many athletes aren't graduating and are going to end up being screwed up. We have a bunch of screwed up 30-year-olds that have no degrees, have spent their money. They can't play football and aren't connected to anything. So this is a good theme, Tommy, where a lot of this tends to get connected about this day and age, Tommy, that 30-year-olds are not getting their degrees, and if they're using their money up, then it's double jeopardy.
Again, I don't think anything's really. It's an age-old problem. It wasn't until the 1980s the NCAA put in some rules and regulations that they had to show their players were working towards graduation to be eligible. So there's new about this. College football, college sports has always churned out athletes, used them up and spit them out when they were done with them.
Candy.
Sweeney has also, and I didn't realize this, he has the highest graduation rate in the country last season of all of the college football programs out there. So I thought that was very interesting. But yeah, I mean, college is for education. And I think that's where all these athletes forget
Well,
that that's where it starts.
Oh, what was the question, Scott? I'm sorry.
oh, it's okay. He's just talking about these athletes, 30-year-olds are all screwed up because they don't have an education and all that stuff.
Well, I mean, I think that, and I know some people don't particularly care for him, but uh, what's the guy's name over there at Arkansas, the basketball coach at Arkansas? He talks about Coach Calipari. He talks about it all the time. About these kids and what they need to do and ensure that these kids are getting an education. I mean, if you're just a hired gun and you're going from school to school to school, then you really have no place that you can go back to and finish your degree. Because you're just a hired gun. They could just kind of look at you cross-eyed when you come back and things that work out for you in your pro career, and you're looking to go back somewhere and finish your degree, and they're like, we paid you. If you want to come back to school here, then you can use some of the money that you received while you're here and complete your education. So I've talked about it ad nauseum. I don't really particularly care for the structure right now, especially with the transfer portal and the amount of times that our kids are allowed to transfer. I don't think you build those relationships in 6 months with players. I've built relationship with guys that I still talk to this day, and that's because I spent 4 years at a university, and we did everything together. We hung out together, we lifted weights together, we practiced together, we went to class together, we did everything together. So we have a lot of history with one another, and there are people that that I call lifelong friends because of the amount of time that we were able to spend with one another, that time that we spent with one another, the conversations that we've had over the years. I care about them and their families. They care about me and my families. And it's a genuine love that we have for one another.
So who have I spoken to so far on this?
Jeremy has to go.
Oh, go ahead, Jeremy. You got the last word on it.
But yeah, there was a time where there was more seniors going into the draft than juniors, and we're not seeing that anymore. Because with the NIL, with transfer portal and bouncing from school to school, whether they get paid or not, these guys are getting out as soon as they're eligible for the draft anymore. There's very few that actually stay and get their degree. And some of the ones who did stay many years, it's because they were getting paid more than they would have as a rookie with NIL money, like Carson Beck, Bo Nix, and what he did with Oregon. He was getting paid by them. You had, what was the other one? Michael Penix. He was another one that stayed in late in school. It happens all the time anymore where either they get their degree and then not even have to go to college and get paid to play, or they're not getting their degree at all. And look at Laken Tomlinson, the guy that came out his junior year out of Duke. He made it a point. He said, during my off season, when I'm not in training camp, I'm going to be taking courses, because he was going for a medical degree to be a neurological surgeon. He graduated, I think it was 2 years ago, with his doctorate and his medical degree for neurological surgery, so he can start a practice as soon as he retires.
Jeremy, in a future show, I want everybody probably in the next show to keep this name in the back of your mind, because I don't have time to get to today. Tommy, you probably are the only one. You ever heard of Richard Diana?
I've heard of it, but I don't know who he is. I've heard the name.
Who is it?
Richard Diana. Used to play for the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to talk about him in another episode. And Dolphins drafted him 1 year, and they quit. After 1 year, went back to medical school and became a doctor. And that reminds me a lot of what you're saying, Jeremy. Well, I'll mention him in a future show. I don't want to get off.
I wanted to add one more thing.
Sure, go ahead.
The top conference in college football for graduation rate, it's the Patriot League, the one with Army, West Point, Navy, Bucknell, Lehigh, Colgate, and Lafayette. They're at 94% graduation success rate for their athletic programs as a whole. That's pretty huge.
Well, it is worth noting that as of January 4th, Clemson is actually being aggressive in the portal. So I guess it's safe to say they finally had to figure it out. We don't need a lot of time on this one. Are you glad that maybe Dabo Sweeney got it right? Because I'll tell you one thing: the kid that we had on, what's his name? Adam Randall,
Adam
right?
Randall.
Right. So he obviously was thankful for Sweeney, but I think when you think about it, you think Sweeney's finally getting it now that he's being more aggressive in the portal. Jeremy, we'll start with you.
I do think he's embracing the portal because now Clemson is starting to lose players to the portal. So they have to recoup those extra losses than just seniors who graduate.
Okay. Mel?
There was a question in there. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay, Mel. We're talking about Clemson finally embracing the portal and Dabo Sweeney dabbing into it.
Well,
we
talked. I think we talked about this before. He either got to, go along or get out the way. I mean, everybody else. This is what everyone else is doing. Now, I understand his philosophy. I mean, he wants to give his guys an opportunity, but that's not what everybody's doing. Not everybody's playing by the same rules. And if you're playing by a different set of rules and you're trying to do things the way that you feel are the right way, because you're Dabo Sweeney and you think that you are one exceptional coach, you are better than every other coach out there. I mean, as great as Nick Saban is, he embraced the transfer portal. And again, I don't think you need to have an overhaul of your roster in the transfer portal. I don't think that's what you need to do. I think you need to recruit players, you need to develop them, you need to coach them up, and then when you may have a depth issue or you need to plug some holes, then you need to go to the transfer. You can go to the transfer portal and you can utilize the transfer portal for for those reasons. Say you were looking to bring in a kid out of, recruit a kid out of high school and you were unable to get him. He ends up going to some other school, and somebody that you really thought that could have an impact in your program pretty, early, then you may, and because you lack depth at a certain position, then you may go out there and look in the transfer portal so that you can have some depth at that particular position. But some of the things like what Colorado's doing, Deion's overhauling his roster every year. I just don't think you can build a program like that. I just don't think that's sustainable. Now, I know that, UCLA, I think they had 53 transfers come in there. But again, you got a new coach coming in there. A lot of players came with him. Some of the players that were there probably don't fit his scheme and what it is that he wants to do. And if I'm him, I'm not real comfortable with those guys that were there before. And and the record that what they put out there in the field last year, what they put on film the previous year, I'm probably not all that impressed with it. So I'm looking to replace some of those guys. And God bless them if they want to stay, they can stay. But if they want to leave, God bless them too. I wish them nothing but the best. But I don't think that you build out your roster through the transfer portal. I think you just plug in holes through the transfer portal. That's how I would look at it.
Well, I agree with you, Mel, because number one, when you're in the NFL, you're talking free agency or Major League Baseball, you want to try to find that one or two, three, four missing pieces that allow you to get over the top. So I'm all there with you, Mel. Tommy, is Dabo getting it figured out?
Yeah, he's basically got to keep up with the times. But the other thing is, if Ole Miss is going to come and raid one of their guys, they've got a roster spot they got to fill. They've got depth to fill. If you got a guy who gets injured, used to be you had to hope that the guy you were developing was ready to go. Now you can find somebody in the transfer portal for immediate depth. So he's just trying to keep up with the times.
Okay, Candy.
Dabo maintains highly selective, reluctant approach to the transfer portal. He prioritizes high school recruiting and player development, which we've talked about that you not seeing as much over these quick fix transfers. Obviously, Clemson suffered some significant departures, 14 players left in early 2026. So he has to use the portal only to fill specific critical roster rather than overhauling the whole team like Mel had talked about. He doesn't like the transfer portal, but obviously he has to use it to his benefit. If he has holes, he has to fill them. So after losing 14 players, he's going to have to figure out what he needs. He decided not to go to the transfer portal for a quarterback. He is trying to develop from what he has already recruited within his program, which we have said we have said that a lot of the coaches aren't doing that. A lot of the coaches are doing transfer portals, but player development is one thing that I'm going to give him credit for, because that's something that I think a lot of them are missing these days.
Yeah, and Daniel Sweeney, I've never met him, but I hope to at the ACC media days in July. I'm definitely, after speaking to him and getting to know him these last few weeks through everything I'm hearing, he's a guy I certainly want to get to know a little bit more. Tommy, you've met with Gabble before. What kind of a person is he? Sure you have.
Well, I think Dabo's a great guy. He's trying to stick to the old way that college football was, and at some point he's got to realize you can't do that. The game is changing. I
Okay.
think Dabo has the players' interest at heart first.
Yeah, again, I with each and every week going through a lot of what he's dealing with, I'm starting to really feel like I want to get to know him deeper. Okay, well, guess what? This likely wouldn't have happened if Miami did not pay Carson Beck $4 million this year, or if they didn't make the playoffs. Where are we going with this bad boy? All right, let's talk about Duke quarterback transfer. Darian Mensah. It's obviously now with Miami with a record-breaking NIL package to hover around $10 million. For sources close to the situation, the Hurricanes have found their quarterback for 2026. Now the rumors are heating up. He will be, well, obviously we talked about Miami for $10 million bucks. And I guess when you look at the dynamics of this whole thing, is that Mensah is making a LeBron type of decision, which he announced he would return to Duke a month prior, and which we all know by now is a decision comes after a month. He made a decision about staying at Duke. And we talked about, so I guess when you look at the $10 million associated with him, you got your $10 million college quarterback. And Miami's the school, obviously, to watch for Darian Mensah's top receiver. As Duke wide receiver Cooper Marquette has entered the transfer portal. I don't know. Marquette totaled 1,106 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. And his numbers are 72 for 1,106, 7 TDs, 15.4 average. Meanwhile, for Mensah, he takes to Miami 3,973 yards, 34 TDs, 6 interceptions, with a quarterback rating of 76.6. And obviously, that's where you have it. So both obviously signed contracts to return to Duke in 2026 and entered the portal. And Miami is likely taking Darian Mensah, Cooper Marquette from Duke to the portal. So it's unbelievable how you get to steal Duke's quarterback 1 and wide receiver 1, and obviously the former. So when you look at Marquette is one thing, but then you also look at who's coaching Duke as well. You have Manny Diaz, who used to be the Miami Hurricanes. All right, Jeremy, I've given you a lot to bite on. Let's try to dive into this. Daria,
I'm trying to figure out what the question is because you rattled off a bunch of stats. But Manny Diaz is a good coach, and he's doing a good thing there with Duke. And Duke is a top 4 school for graduation rate over the last 10 years. So there's another school that likes to develop their players.
Yeah, and the question was, I was just basically giving all the facts between Mensah and now Marquette. So how they're trying to get their top 2 is really what it is. So when you can go ahead and take their top 2 players, that's pretty impressive work, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's somebody doing their homework, and whether they gave them NIL or whatever, or they said, hey, we actually develop our players here. You'll actually get your degree. You'll be able to play a few years. You're not going to be just a one and done guy.
No.
So the kid, he's not at Duke, right? He's at Miami. He went to University of Miami, right? The Miami in the portal. The guy started out at Tulane, was at Tulane for a couple of years, and then he went to Duke and was at Duke for 1 year, put up some respectable numbers, I guess, and now he's got a big payday at Miami. Now I can't believe that That they're giving him this kind of money. It says Duke gave him 2 years, $8 million. He had a 2-year, $8 million NIL contract with Duke, and we know Duke is a very good school. Going to Miami, obviously, there's going to be a lot of expectations, and there's going to be a lot more pressure there at Miami than he would have at Duke. But also, it's going to get a lot more visibility too. I mean, he has pretty good size. He's about 6'3", but he started off at a small school. So, I mean, here's a guy that obviously needed some developing. He redshirted his first year at Tulane, didn't get an opportunity to play his redshirt freshman year. Put up some good numbers, parlayed that into an opportunity at Duke. I guess, again, put up some good numbers, and now parlayed that to an opportunity at the University of Miami. Here we go, the new world of college football.
Tommy, you're closer to that situation than I am up there. What are your thoughts about the hiring robbery that Mario Cristobal had at the expense of the Blue Devils? Tommy,
Tom, are you frozen?
He's frozen.
Well, the other thing you have to wonder about is what's going on in the locker room now. There's a lot of guys
Right.
in Miami that helped them get to the national finals, and now they're bringing in guys and paying them more money. Quarterback, I know, is a different situation. The pay scale is higher, but still, what if you were one of the backup quarterbacks? What's the lesson you learned? That they're just going to bring in a high-priced quarterback. You can't count on Miami developing you. How does that hurt? How does that affect them in recruiting down the road when they go after that top quarterback? And the other thing I don't like about this is, Darian Mensah last year, well, first of all, he abandoned Tulane, but he still was getting the benefit of the doubt as helping elevate Duke's program, kind of the way Fernando Mendoza was helping elevate Indiana's program. And then he takes some money and runs and goes to Miami. So I think he's gone from being an inspiring story to a poster boy story for what's wrong with college football.
Candy.
I'm going to give a little bit of credit to Miami, though, because Mensah said he's already forged a relationship with Cristobal, who he raves about. But after seeing what offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson and offensive line coach Alex Mirabal have done, convinced him that Miami was right for him. Seeing what Dawson could do with those last two quarterbacks was super encouraging, Mensah said. And making the national championship last year was obviously another encouraging sign. But I think the biggest thing was how physical they are up front. I think Coach Mirabal is one of the best in the country. And so I wanted to come and play behind a line like that. Makes a difference too, I think. Yes, obviously payday is always important, but I think sometimes it's the coaches that you're playing for too, and not necessarily just the head coach, but the coaches that you have one-on-one contact with makes a difference.
Yeah, well, it sure does. And I think, let's face it, Miami's got a lot of money down there, and they're going to spend it. And they're not worried about what people think about it either. So that's just how it actually kind of works out. And Mario Cristobal right now knows that when you have the resources that they have down in Coral Gables, why not do what you've got to do? So, all right, let's talk about the fact that earlier in the year, there were 0 out of 10 NFL head coach openings this hiring cycle. None went to black coaches, Tommy. Obviously, you talked about Duffy Doherty at length a lot. So this is not a good look for the NFL with the Rooney Rule. Tommy?
Well, whenever they do bring up this issue, the only guy they talk to is Tony Dungy, the media, to get his quotes because he was the black coach who won a Super Bowl. What about all the guys like Jimmy Ray and Sherman Lewis, who were longtime offensive coordinators and never got a chance to be a head coach? They have an opinion too about not getting a chance, not getting interviews. But the media does the lazy thing, and they just go to Tony Dungy all the time. There's other guys that deserve to talk about this issue. And Jimmy Ray, Sherman Lewis's health isn't good now, but Jimmy Ray and Sherman Lewis, Duffy Doherty gave them their start as assistant coaches at Michigan State. They kept moving up into the NFL. They were offensive coordinators, and they never got a chance. So their opinion is as relevant as Tony Dungy's is.
Andy?
You know, 0 were hired, despite approximately 70% of the players being African American. The league entered the 2026 season with only 3 black head coaches. And the other interesting tidbit, there is a list of 11 teams that have never hired a black head coach. Do I think, is it fair? No, but I also think the best person for the job needs to be hired. I don't care what color you are. I don't care if you're male or female. The best person for the job should get the job, no matter what.
Mel?
Well, I mean, I think we've talked about this before. It's kind of the good old boy network. And then now it's just kind of the way the climate is right now. I mean, they're even trying to pass legislation down there in Florida to do away with the Rooney Rule, saying that somehow or another it adversely affects, the white coaches. And it's discriminating against white coaches. And all the Rooney Rule is designed to do is give guys an opportunity to have a conversation and that may not have otherwise happened. That's what the Rooney Rule was intended for, and to give black head coaches or black coaches an opportunity to initially go through the interview process and see what that interview process was like. And, hopefully, people would close their eyes and hire who they felt was the best candidate based on the interview. Now, the climate that we're in right now with the administration that we have right now and all the different things going on and woke all of a sudden, being aware and being woke, as they like to call it, is now a bad thing. These owners, they're going to hire what's familiar to them. And until we have a change in ownership, whereas we have some African American owners, this really is not going to change. It's going to continue to hover around the same number that it's at. It's going to be a minority of the coaches that are going to be getting those jobs because these jobs are premium jobs and they're high paying jobs. And, it probably bothers some people. They have to swallow real hard when they hire or when they see an African American coach get hired, and you have to pay them the type of money that you're paying them. We know that it's not because of a lack of candidates. We know it's not because of a lack of competence. It's simply because they just choose not to do the right thing. And, we see guys, these retreads get hired over and over and over again, right. Get 2, 3, 4, 5 opportunities, never win, don't win anywhere they go, but they still get an opportunity. Names get brought up and, their names might go quiet for a minute, but then all of a sudden right. their names get popular again because they might have done something special with one particular team, or just feel like because there's a familiarity with this individual, that they'll go ahead and hire him because they can, sit down and eat chicken wings and nachos and have similar types of conversations. That's probably the best person for the job. But it's simply a change. It's not because there's a lack of candidates or competent candidates. It's simply because we need to have a change in ownership. That's it. The ownership needs to change. So in other words, there needs to be more African Americans owning these sports franchises, and they're becoming more and more expensive to own. It's becoming more and more difficult to own. And it's just kind of the good old boy network, and I just don't see it changing anytime soon.
Jeremy?
Before I make my comment, Eddie Fraser mentioned Brian Flores not getting a head coaching job as criminal. The reason why he didn't get any offers this year, it's not because he didn't deserve it. It's because as long as he has an open NFL case where he's suing owners, he cannot take a head coaching job. Right. They cannot interview him. They cannot do anything with it. And I have a feeling what'll end up happening is he's either going to drop the suit, and then get a head coaching job the very next year, or B, he's going to win that suit against the Dolphin and Giants owners, the ones that said all the bad things about him after he was let go from the Dolphins. So, because it looked like he was going to be hired by the Giants that following season, and something happened between the owner of the Dolphins and the Giants, and they backed out at the last second. And that's why they hired Brian Dable.
Thanks for clarifying that. Okay, now you can comment on.
But who all was the qualified coaches that were interviewed that they even did a second interview with? That's what you have to look at, because if you look, none of them got a second interview. And I'm not saying that they weren't deserving coaches. They were deserving coaches enough to get the first interview already. But if they felt like that was the right person for the job, they would have been hired, because the previous year we saw 4 get hired. The year before that, we saw at least three get hired out of the 8 jobs that were there. On an average, there's 9 jobs every season that opens up, because there's 9 teams that do that bad.
Yeah, that's true. All right, you want to talk about a good story that came out of the Super Bowl? I'll give you one, because these 2 guys started as teammates at North Dakota, and they became Super Bowl champions. The people I'm talking about are the walk from a shared college apartment in Fargo to the center of the field of Super Bowl LX is a path very few people ever get to travel. A few years ago, Gray Zabel and Jalen Sundell were roommates at North Dakota State, grinding out the FCS season, dreaming of the league. And guess what? They're both Super Bowls. All right, Jeremy, that's quite a story, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's a great story, going from a championship Division II school to being NFL champions with the Seahawks. Great story.
Mel?
Yeah, it's a great story. No matter what university you come from, have the opportunity to go to and win a Super Bowl. And for these guys, obviously they probably weren't high draft picks or anything like that. And for them to have the opportunity to make a football club and then go to a Super Bowl, I don't think it doesn't get any better than that for them.
Tom? Tommy?
Hey, well, we talked before about how North Dakota State turns out a lot of pro players. So it's kind of a coincidence they're on the same team, but the track record of their alma mater is backs it up.
Candy?
Yeah, how cool is it that you went to college with somebody and then your paths meet again and you win a Super Bowl? I mean, you form such bonds in college, so I think that's only fitting and kind of cool.
That's true. Gotta love it. All right, well, I'll tell you what. An old friend of ours is Dominican Sue. Okay, Tommy, I got this one and one more topic, and then you can do the Shanahan report. Are you okay with that? Please? Just 2 topics and your report. Okay. And one of them is this. And Dominican Sue says most NFL players don't get rich. And he says that
Yeah.
they don't get rich. The average NFL career lasts 3.3 years. Most players are out of the league before their 4th season ever even starts. There's no waiting, no guaranteed contract protecting them. ESPN shows you Dak at $60 million or Micah at $43 million. What they don't show you is the other 20 to 30 guys in the league signing for under $1 million on those same days. 60 to 70% of the NFL roster is on deals between $750K and $2 million. Now you add the jock tax, and you're also playing for a New York team, $200,000. You take home $100,000. In every state you play in, that you have a separate tax bill. I watch guys get their first signing bonus check, $1.2 million on paper, $600,000 in hand. They thought that they were getting the other half back in April. It was taxes. He goes on to say only 46 of the 53 men on the roster dress on game day. Veterans with 7 or 8 years in the league are one bad week away from being cut, living paycheck to paycheck in one of the most watched leagues in the world. Nobody prepares for how fast it ends. The check stops, the call stops, and most players have nothing to show for it. And he goes ahead and concludes by the time most guys figure this out, their career is already over. What are you building right now that the income stops? This is a loaded one, Tom. As we approach the NFL draft, that's what these guys have to go out there and literally try to figure out. You know what I'm saying? What are your thoughts about Ndamukong Suh's thoughts about the short of a career when you may not end up with a whole lot when it's all said and done? Tom? Tommy? Tommy?
Tommy, you frozen?
I seen him moving.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't catch. It broke up a lot on me. I didn't catch most of the question, but I think you're talking about Sue saying most NFL players aren't rich. Hey, most
Jeremy,
people coming
do
out
me
of
a favor.
college don't
Summarize
get the
a lot
NFL
of what I
minimum
told.
of 700,000 or whatever.
Right. Jeremy, give them an overview of what I just mentioned. Maybe you just have to get back
so
to
I don't know what.
Basically, what he's
I don't have any
saying.
sympathy for an NFL guy blowing his money.
Basically, what he was saying is how the rank and file players don't make as much as the top 46 on a team. Let's face it, every team has 70 players on it when you add it up. It's 69, actually. 16 practice squad players. Most of them don't make $1 million a year. And anybody below 2 million is more of the rank and file. They are the rotational players at the back end and maybe only special teamers. So I get what he's saying. Why hasn't anyone walked up to these rookies and do a rookie how to save your money program? They used to do it with Chris Carter back in the day when he'd do his rookie symposium where he'd invite other pros that retired with him. Why aren't they still doing that? Because what they need is a financial advisor, not an agent. They need a financial advisor, somebody that's going to say, hey, you just got a contract, and the rookie contracts now, I think up until the third round, are fully guaranteed. It's everything after that isn't. But if you go from the fourth round down, nobody makes more than $2 million per year.
Okay,
So
Tommy.
why aren't they taking those guys and saying, hey, why don't you put $500,000 to $1 million into a mutual money marketing account that works like a checking account, live off your interest compounded monthly? You're going to guarantee yourself $1,000 to $4,000 a month.
There you go, Tommy. You can take it from there. Any sympathy or not?
Again, most of the world doesn't make anywhere near that money coming out of college, or even 10 years into their career. So I don't have any sympathy for any of it.
All right, I'll give you one more topic, Tommy. You do the Shanahan.
They're living in a fantasy world, whether they know it or not.
Okay, that's fair. I appreciate your insights on it. What's that? I'll give you one
go to my website, tomshanahan.report, and my Twitter handle is Shanny4055, SHAY4055. If you go to my website today, I posted a story about, we were talking earlier about the large number of transfer portal players. Michigan State has 60 new players when you combine the portal and their new recruits, because now kids enroll early, and they need a history lesson on Duffy Doherty, on what he meant to college football and how he stands alone, and that's what I wrote about on my website.
All right, yeah, well, I think Pat Fitzgerald's going to do a good job there. One last thing I want to get out here on.
That's it for me.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, Tommy, what we'll do is the one topic I want to hold out for you tonight.
I'll send you that story to my website.
I'll include the one topic on tonight for tomorrow's show, and then we'll get you out of here on time. How's that, my friend? All right?
Okay, you're breaking up on me.
All right, have a good night, Tommy. God bless.
on me,
Okay.
but I'll go.
Okay. All right, Jeremy, you might as well finish off the topic about what I mentioned about about what we obviously are talking about with Dominican Sue.
I get what Nick Damakinsu's saying, and he's basically saying the same thing I am, is that these kids need somebody to direct them financially to set up their future so that they're not blowing it all like a bunch of knuckleheads.
Right. He's on point. Candy?
You know, these guys make a lot of money, yes. Do they have advisors available to them? Yes. Do they seek them out? Probably not. But there are advisors that are available for them. Uh, it's tough because let's face it, when everybody else goes out in the world, do they get this kind of money so early? No. But the other thing is NFL has a short life though too. Most of these players only are playing 3, 4, 5 years. And are they making enough money for them to retire for the rest of their life? No. So they've got to make sure that they are saving some of that money for later on and for them to set them up to find another career after the NFL.
My thing is that if you look at these signing bonuses these rookies get outside of the UDFAs, all of them are over $1 million. That's paid up front. Yes, it's stretched out over the contract to make the cap hit less, but they could invest that money immediately and still have their game checks. If they did that, it's not a capital gains tax because it's income. So it would be taxable income. So it's already taxed. You take that tax dollars and like I said, you make them split their money in half. The 7th round guy gets a $2 million guaranteed signing bonus. That's paid up front. That means you already made $2 million before you step foot in the practice facility.
Mm-hmm.
So make them put half of it away in an MMA. Find one that has a good rate. I think the rates start out at like 0.5% and go as far as 4%, and it's guaranteed monthly yields at that point. Anything over that is not guaranteed, but you're never guaranteed to make less. That's my point. So if you put $1 million in there, because the last guy picked in the draft gets a $2 million signing bonus, you make them put $1 million in there. 0.5% is $50,000 a month.
All right, Mel, are you anywhere nearby? Oh, well.
I think he's on the phone. That's why he had to
Okay,
go.
well, that's fine. You know what we'll do? We'll go to another topic. It's not going to matter to him that much anyways. We'll talk about one of the most interesting numbers you're going to see during college football. 30.1 million viewers. So the most watched non-NFL sporting event. We're talking about the college football playoff national championship between Indiana and Miami. I'm at 30.1 million viewers, peaking at 33.2 million. Okay, Jeremy, some thoughts on that?
I think it's amazing. It's great for college football. It happened. I wish they would do something different with NIL, and that's a whole nother thing. But the viewership is amazing. Do you realize that's 7 million more viewers than the NBA championships last summer?
Yeah, that's impressive. That is pretty impressive for sure. Okay, Candy.
Yeah, I mean, it helped that you had two teams from two different conferences, two different, one was Midwest, one was Miami. That always helped. It was a 4% year over year increase. ABC, so it was also televised on a couple of different. ABC dominated the viewership, owning the top 3 windows. It was the highest viewership in 11 years for the national championship. So kudos to them. I think part of it was how many people wanted to see the Cinderella story of Indiana and the fact that they went 16-0. Like, could they do it, against a historic program such as the Hurricanes? and let's face it, the NFL markets football very well. Piggyback CFP, 30.1 million viewers. Not a bad haul.
Okay, well, you know what? There's no question that, and they did it at Hard Rock Stadium where Miami had home field advantage, or did they? But that said, we're going to go to a station break. Hopefully, we'll get Mel back on as we have a couple topics I want to get his opinion on. Go ahead, Candy.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about his 40 plus years in the media and how it has evolved and changed. Go get your copy today. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, and the audiobook is out as well. So whichever way you'd like to read it or listen to it, it's available. Go out there and grab your copy today. As far as our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, we have a plethora of great content on there. Jeremy writes, in fact, he's going to have one last draft profile that it will be going up tonight. He's written a bunch of them, so go to his spot on our website and find out all the different draft prospects that he wrote on. He wrote on a whole bunch of them, so definitely go check that out.
I counted 22 so far. This makes 23.
Good for you. So anybody, if you're interested, go check those out on our website as well. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. If you want to advertise or you want to be a guest on the show or have topic ideas and you don't come in the chat room, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. And last but not least, if you see that red subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, that means you have not yet subscribed to us. Or if you're watching on Jeremy's, please subscribe to us. And if you're watching on ours, please subscribe to his as well. We both obviously are giving up our time to do this. We would hope that you are enjoying it. We would ask that you would subscribe to both channels as well. Monday nights, we talk baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football here. Wednesday nights, you never know what we're talking about, so definitely tune in. Thursday nights, again, sports wrap. It's going to be either soccer or hockey. And then we are going to be on a hiatus for the next couple weeks because the NFL draft is Thursday night, so Fire Up will not be on. Jeremy will be doing on his channel, though, so definitely tune in on his channel after you've watched Sports Wrap on ours. Then you can go over to his for the draft. And then the next 2 weeks, we will be taking a little hiatus, although our channel will not be taking a hiatus. There will be still some programming on there. So make sure you have your notifications turned on for both so you are notified every time we go live. Back to you, Scott.
All right, great. So, Jeremy, so we have a few moments. Why don't you go ahead and give everybody an overview about what your segment is today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I wanted to talk about one Mr. Draft Profile I wrote today, a IPP player who's never played a snap of organized football. It's U.R. Bernard, the defensive tackle out of Nigeria. You may have heard of him because everybody's raving about his IPP combine he did last week. This kid ran a 4.62 40. He had a 10'10" broad jump, and he has 10-inch hands with a 39-inch vertical. What's amazing about that? He's almost 6'5" tall and weighs 306 pounds with only 6% body fat. Usi Umunyoria was the Osi Umunyoria, the old defensive end from the Giants, who is the one that does the scouting for the IPP over there in Africa. He's the one that found this kid. And just to put that in perspective, a 4.62 is the fastest defensive tackle in the draft this year, and he scored a perfect 10 by Math Bomb's RAS score. And he looks like he will be a one-gap penetrator, but he has the speed to make up from behind if he misses. If he's put into a system where he's in a 3-4, he will fail because he cannot be just a nose tackle. He has to be put into a gap. So he fits a 4-man front system. So if you think about that, he's going to fit teams like the Lions. He's going to fit Tampa Bay, who uses a hybrid defense, both 3 and 4-man fronts. He's going to fit the Jags. He's going to fit Seattle's defense. He's also going to fit the 49ers defense. A lot of the other defenses have gone to more of a 3-4 hybrid, which means they use the 4-man front sparingly, and it's usually by dropping a linebacker in rather than an extra defensive tackle.
Okay. Great stuff. All right, let's go back to Mel. Glad you're back, Mel. A couple things I want to get you up to speed on.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had to take that phone call real quick.
Oh, that's not a
Appreciate
big
it.
deal. That's okay. We work our way through it like we always do. So let's talk about the 30.1 million viewers most watched on NFL sporting event. That was the college football playoff national championship game between Indiana and Miami, which amassed 30.1 million, peaking at 33.2 million. What are your thoughts, Mel? How that one played out? That was just unbelievable, wasn't it?
Well, college football, it's a big deal. Football in general is huge here in this country, and college football is huge. And the national championship game, the way that they've done it now with the playoffs, the first week is not all that competitive, but the second and what third, maybe fourth weeks get a little bit more competitive, and the national championship game is always obviously very compelling. Particularly this year, we had a team that had an opportunity to go 16-0. Miami, who did not even win their conference and didn't play in the conference championship game, but got on a great run at the end of the year in the playoffs, and played their way into the championship game. Miami being back there, the U being back, everybody's really excited about that. You had another team other than Alabama or Georgia or Ohio State playing as well. A team that historically has been horrible at football, has been known as a basketball school. So I think it made for compelling storylines, made for compelling television. And I think that's why you got as many eyeballs on that game as you did, because you had a team that came out of nowhere with a quarterback who's a little quirky. But they're an outstanding story. And then the U, with the U coming back to prominence again, I think that made for a great television, great theater.
Okay. Now, you want? We talked about Ndamukong Suh. I don't know how much of that you heard. Do you want me to go over everything with you real quick?
Ndamukong Suh, you said?
Yeah, Ndamukong Suh. He says most NFL players don't get rich, and he goes on to say that 70% of them of the league on shorter non-guaranteed deals, taxes, and fees take massive bites out of those multi-million-dollar salaries. When the world expects you to spend like a superstar, but your career only lasts 3 years, the math disappears fast. It's not about what you make; it's about what you build for decades to come. I'm going to go over some things that Ndamukong said, then you can react. Okay. The average NFL career lasts 3.3 years. Most players are out of the league before their fourth season even starts. There's no pension waiting, no guaranteed contract protecting them. ESPN shows you Dak at 60 million or Micah at 43 million. What they don't show you is 20 to 30 guys in the league signing for under $1 million on the same days. 60 to 70% of an NFL roster is on deals between 750K to 2 million. Now you add the jock tax, and you are playing for and then you're playing for a New York team. 200 grand, you get 100,000. Every state you play in that season sends you a separate tax bill. Boy, that's unbelievable stuff, Candy. You must be learning a lot of accounting stuff with this, right? I know you majored in it. I watched guys get their first signing bonus, 1.2 million on paper, 600,000 in hand. They thought they were getting the other half back in April, but it was taxes. And only 46 to 53 men on the roster dressed on game day. Veterans with 7 or 8 years in the league are one bad week away from being cut, living on paycheck to paycheck. It's one of the most watched leagues in the world. Nobody prepares for how fast it ends. The check stops, the calls stop, and most players have nothing to show for it. And he concludes that by the time most guys figure it out, their career is already over. What are they building now? Before the income stops. Okay, Mel, the topic's all yours. We've already commented on it.
Yeah, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And then Dominic is not saying anything that nobody doesn't know.
Right.
And he didn't feel this side of it because Dominic made a lot of money in the NFL. I was one of those guys that was on the bottom half of the roster, and there's a reason why the average NFL player's career is less than 4 years. It's because that's when you become vested, and that's when you get a pension and all those other kind of things. So it's on purpose. It's done by design. Every year they have a draft, so they're constantly looking for younger, cheaper talent. That's just the way that it is. And when you're paying a Dak Prescott $60 million, well, and you're in a salary cap league, there's only so much money that you can allot for other positions. So that means that some veteran guys some guys with who have an opportunity to maybe become vested are not going to make the ball club because you got to have some cheaper talent to fill out the depth of the roster. So what he's talking about is nothing new. I mean, these young kids, especially African American kids, when we go to school, we learn math, English, and science, and biology, and things of that nature. But we don't have a class on Wealth 101 or Finance 101, how to handle your finances, what to do with your money when you get the money. You can set yourself up for future by putting that money away. The 53rd guy can't spend like the number one guy in the roster. If I'm on the Dallas Cowboys and I'm hanging around the bottom of the roster, I can't spend money like Dak Prescott. I can't go into a club and buy everybody a bottle of the best champagne or the best cognac in the club. I can't do that. I need to be the one on the receiving end of that, and let Dak do all that kind of stuff. But a lot of times, what happens is the 53rd guy is trying to spend like the number one guy on the roster, and that's how you run out of money real quick. So these guys have to, and that's something that, again, the coaches, whether it's in high school or whether it's in college, because in the African American community, we don't really talk about these kind of things that much. We know how to spend money very well. We know how to show that we know how to spend money very, very well, but we don't talk about saving money. They need to save a percentage of that money. A percentage of that money needs to be put away in a mutual fund, a Roth IRA or something like that, and just leave it there and allow that money to grow. Because if you have an understanding of finances, you understand that money makes more money faster than people do. Because money never sleeps, money never calls in sick, money never has to go on family medical leave. Money is always constantly working. Wealthy people never have access to basically free cash or have cash just sitting on hand in the bank. They don't do that. They have the cash sitting on hand in the bank that they need in order to live day to day. But the vast majority of their money is out there working somewhere in the global economy. So these are the kind of conversations that people need to have. Their agents need to have these types of conversations with these young kids when they say they want to go buy the diamonds and the jewelry and the cars and the houses and all that other kind of stuff. Need to have a conversation about, get yourself how many cars can you drive? Like somebody, I think Dr. J told Charles Barkley, how many cars can you drive at one time? You can only drive one, so you don't need 10. And how big of a house do you need to be comfortable for you and your family? And how many homes do you need? Your mom and them can come live with you. They don't necessarily have to have their own big old mansion, and you have a big mansion too, and you're footing the bill for both of them. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then here comes dad coming along that you haven't talked to in forever, and he's got his hand out too. So it's just tough conversations that somebody needs to have with these young people, and then they have to have a willing ear to listen if they want that money to be able to last for a long time, to be able to create generational wealth.
Okay. Very good. So Candy, you and I are not going to comment on this, but we're going to give Jeremy and Mel the opportunity because it'll be also on the Motor City Mad Mouse show. How's that sound? But I think it's important that Mel and Jeremy get a crack out of it. Can talk about Sam Darnold actually made $178,000 for winning the Super Bowl. He had to pay $249,000 to California, Texas for being there 7 days, so he lost 71 grand for winning the Super Bowl because it was California. Jeremy.
Well, California has the highest jock tax of any state in the union down here. So it's based off of your salary for the year not based off of your game check. And that's the problem. So that 15% was based off of his $20 million cap hit. So it stinks, but anybody that knows, the problem is putting the Super Bowl in California.
Okay. Mel?
Yeah, I mean, California is one of the most expensive places to live, especially for an athlete. And when you go there and you play games there, they're going to get taxed for that as well. That, something needs to give with the state of California. Like Jeremy says, I mean, the weather's great out there. They got a beautiful stadium there. But at some point in time, I think this one was up in Northern California this past Super Bowl, but I think it's coming to Southern California this year, or if I'm not mistaken, or very, very soon. But at some point in time, the legislature out there in California is going to have to do something to improve that situation, because eventually, you got to pay for that sunshine. I understand that sunshine is not free, but the at the rate at which they have to pay, there's a lot of wealthy people in California, and there's they need to spread some of those taxes to some more of those wealthy people. They need to pay their fair share of taxes, and not just expect the jocks that come in there to pay all the taxes.
Okay. All right. Fernando Mendoza says the reason he will not be in Pittsburgh on Thursday night for the 2026 NFL Draft is partly because his mother's health is a priority, and he wants to make the night easier on his family after so much travel this year. Mendoza also said he wanted to stay home and share the moment with the village that poured into his football journey, friends, family, coaches, mentors, rather than spend the night away from them. I wanted to stay and make the memory with everybody who poured into my football journey. Jeremy, I think that's very admirable of the guy. What about you?
Well, as a fan, I've lived by 3 words doing my show. Number 1 is faith. Number 2 is family. Number 3 is football.
Right.
And it sounds like that is the way Mendoza is grounded with his Christian background.
Right.
And I think it's commendable. Besides, I would rather be with my family than hug the Antichrist known as Roger Goodell.
Yeah, you would cover the draft together. Go figure. Okay. That's funny. Okay, what about you, Mel? Oh,
I don't have a problem with it. He's not the first number 1 overall pick to make this decision. I think it's much to do about nothing. His mom, I believe, has MS. He's thinking about his family, thinking about the travel. He wants to spend this moment with his family, the people who've been there with him, believed in him all these years. And, as opposed to, giving all that to ESPN and allowing them to capitalize on his name and so forth and so on, and his, this opportunity for him, this great moment for him getting drafted. He wants to spend it with his family. Now, of course, they're going to have all kind of cameras down there, I'm sure, wherever they're at. But
right.
he just wants to stay home. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't have a problem with it at all. Plus, it's in Pittsburgh. Brian, not a whole lot to do. Not real exciting. When the drafts always used to be in New York, guys used to go out to New York. That was probably fun. But now they kind of got a little traveling show. They go all around the country. So, being in Pittsburgh probably didn't help, but it wouldn't have mattered whether it was in Pittsburgh, whether it was in New York, whether it was in LA. It didn't matter. He was going to spend this with his family.
Candy?
Yeah, as I've sat here and thought about it, you know what? I'm not going to make a big thing out of it. It's completely personal. It's up to him whether he wants to be there or not. Is it his moment? Absolutely. Is it his moment that he could be on stage? Yes. But if he chooses that he'd rather be home for other reasons due to family not being able to travel, I mean, we don't know all of the story behind it. Maybe his family can't travel. We did see his parents at the national championship game. But maybe she can't travel now. And, if he wants to stay home and celebrate it with them, I'm sure they're going to bring the cameras into his living room for him to be on camera. So we'll still get to see him. We'll still get to see, his reaction. Kudos to him for not falling to peer pressure and to be able to stand on your ground and be able to make the decision what you feel is best for you.
Amen.
Yeah, like I said, I don't have a problem with it at all. I think it's commendable by the young man. So, all right, well, obviously, Detroit's tenure as a bowl destination is over because Detroit's college football bowl game is done after 29 years for Field Pontiac Silverdome. It's too bad, Jeremy, but I'm not surprised that this took place.
It is sad, but it isn't surprising because with a -3 population rate and a lot of the southern teams struggle with going north to deal with winter when most of them moved away. Because if you think
Right.
about it, almost all the southern states down there in that Bible Belt South, they all moved away from these northern states to get away from the snow. Why would they want to come back to the middle of it? And when we get ready to do my personal take, I have my first and only mock draft for KCB Network that I want to put up here, and I'll go over it with you.
Okay. All right, we can do that after we get done with a couple of things
Yep.
here and bring up the draft order. Andy, some thoughts about, well, Detroit. I don't know what kind of history you have with it, but they've had one for 29 years as a Pontiac Silverdome and Ford Field.
Yeah, I mean,
My best memory there is that I got FAU into a bowl game, the Motor City Bowl, so that's always going to be a special memory for me. FAU ended up winning against Central Michigan, so that shares a great spot. So I hate to see it go, but FAU has the memories, and so does Howard Smoker. Go ahead.
so the reason for the cancellation was the game was canceled after the Detroit Lions ended their involvement, citing the end of a title sponsorship and a shift in focus toward other events. Now, one of the other things we might talk about is, uh, yeah, I mean, it's sad. Anytime you have a blue collar team that supports their teams like they do, to not have an annual football game played in their venue, it's sad for the fans because it's a chance for the fans to be able to get into a different game, maybe different, because obviously, let's face it, to the Big Ten schools play in Ann Arbor, and then Michigan State is in. Forgive me. What town is it in, Scott?
East Lansing.
East Lansing. So the fact that nobody really plays downtown Detroit, it's too bad that the bowl game is going away because all the fans that could go into downtown Detroit and watch them might not be able to go to the other schools. So that's sad.
Mel?
So you're saying the Motor City Bowl is no more? That's what you're saying? That it's over with? That's the one that George Perlis helped start, right?
He actually did help start it now that you brought it up. Yeah, George Perlis was one of the.
So what, last year was the last year? This past year was the last game for the Motor City? What was that? The MAC champion against some other school? Well, bowl games have lost their relevance.
Isn't that the quick lane change bowl? Is what they called it?
Yeah.
What's that, Jeremy?
Was that the quick lane change bowl? Is what it was now?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't
even watch bowl games.
Wow.
Bowl games have lost their relevance with the college playoffs, with ESPN taking over everything and really funneling everything towards the college playoffs. Bowl games have just lost their relevancy. I don't even watch bowl games really pretty much anymore, unfortunately. But I remember going to a bowl game was a big deal. That's what you strive for all year long, was to get to the bowl game. For us, obviously in the Pac-10 at that particular time, it was to get to the granddaddy. It was to get to the Rose Bowl. If you didn't make it to the Rose Bowl, then I went to a Fiesta Bowl. I went to Freedom Bowl, and I think I went to an Aloha Bowl. Those, Freedom Bowl and Aloha Bowl were, but the Fiesta Bowl and the Rose Bowl were big deals. But bowl games have just lost their relevance, so they've lost revenue, and I think you said you lost the title sponsors. I think that's what you were saying, Scott. You lost one of the big sponsors. Yeah. They're expensive to put on because you got to pay these schools to come. If it doesn't make sense for them to come, then they're not going to go to those games. I know a lot of teams not to go to bowl games because of the expense of traveling to a bowl game. It just doesn't make sense for them to do it with what they're going to get back in return. I hate to see it go because it's another opportunity for some seniors that they're going to lose to have one last game out there with their fellow teammates. So it's unfortunate, but it's just kind of the way, college football is going right now.
Okay. All right, let me go over the NFL draft order. Jeremy, I'll get to your segment about that afterwards, but I want to make sure I get some of these other topics in. The draft order as it stands right now, you have the Raiders, obviously number 1, the Jets 2, Cardinals 3, Titans 4, Giants 5, Browns 6, Washington 7, New Orleans 8, Kansas City 9, Bengals are 10, Dolphins 11, Cowboys are 12, the Rams from Atlanta are 13, the Ravens are 14, the Buccaneers are 15, the Jets, again, they get another one. This one from Indianapolis at 16. The Lions are in at 17. The Vikings are 18. The Panthers are 19. The Cowboys from Green Bay, and we're going to get to that in just a moment, are 20th. You have the Steelers at 21. You have the LA Chargers here. I ain't getting caught with San Diego Chargers. LA Chargers. You got the Eagles again at 23. Then you have the Browns from Jacksonville at 24. 25th, you have the Bears. Then you have the Buffalo at 26. You have the Bills. 27, you got the 49ers. 28, you have the Texans. 29, again, the Rams are back in there again. 30, you have the Broncos. 31, you have the Patriots. And 32, you have the Seahawks. And just the teams without a first round pick, the Rams traded theirs to the LA Rams. Green Bay traded theirs to Dallas, and something we're going to talk about in a moment. Jaguars traded theirs to Cleveland, and the Colts traded theirs to the Jets. All right, I won't.
Scott, Scott, one correction. There's a correction, though. Number 10 is the Giants.
Okay.
Yep, number 10 is because the Bengals traded that for Dexter Lawrence yesterday.
Okay, well, that. All right, thanks for the correction. Okay, Jeremy, take the lead on this.
It's going to be an interesting draft because it looks like the rumor has it that the Chiefs are trying to trade up with either the Cardinals or the Titans because they're very interested in taking the running back out of Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love. I think it's a mistake to draft him that high. I think they could possibly sit there. The only team that might take him ahead of him, but I doubt it because they just got Travis Etienne is New Orleans Saints. The only other one is the Washington Commanders. I think they'd be better suited to trade up with the Browns and just get just ahead of the Commanders because the Giants don't need a running back right now. And with the 5th and the 10th pick, I think they should go O-line and fix it so Jackson Dart doesn't end up becoming like Tua.
Okay. Anything else you want to add to the order? Or are you content with that?
Other than that, the Rams, they got that pick because the Falcons were, willing to take the risk on somebody with a sketchy character in James Pierce Jr. that backfired because he's probably going to prison.
Okay. Fair enough. Candy?
Obviously, Green Bay traded out to get Micah Parsons last year. Then he unfortunately got injured, so they're not making a pick until believe it's number 52, I think, in the second round. So I could still see some movement happen. We sometimes see that especially if you find somebody that you really want, I could see some day one trades happening yet.
Chicken Nugget King's in the chat. Love it.
No.
Draft is always an interesting day. Everybody, is full of hope. In all these young prospects, their lives are going to change forever. Especially the ones that go in the first round, even the second round, all of them. Anybody whose name gets called, their life is going to change. They're going to have an opportunity to go out there and continue to fulfill their lifelong dream of becoming an NFL player, professional football player, playing a game that they love. Back in our day, it was, you finally get paid. But now these guys have been getting paid for quite some period of time. Some of them have been getting paid since they were in high school now. But it's a great opportunity. It's exciting for everybody. It's exciting for the fan base. They're excited about the new opportunity, the new guys that are coming in, and the hope that their team will be the last one standing and holding that and hoisting that Lombardi trophy.
Yeah, I've covered the draft so many different ways. I've covered it with the Dolphins, the Lions, and the Jaguars. And obviously, Candy and I and Jeremy got to do it live. So it's pretty interesting to see how these trades go as time goes on. Okay, well, We'll go down to Kurt Signetti's National Championship headset auction for $112,500. Bill Belichick's game worn Super Bowl 36 headset auction for $10,200. So don't figure. And we're just talking about his Super Bowl 36 headset in 2018. Signetti's saw a nearly $90,000 increase in the top bid in the last hour. It just goes to show you that Kurt Signetti, obviously, Jeremy, he's worth more. His headset means an awful lot, especially from a team nobody expected anything about. So I repeat, $112,000 is what it actually auctioned for. And again,
so his headset is worth 0.6% of his salary.
Right, not bad.
No, sports memorabilia is going through the roof. And with Fanatics being the leader, that sets prices at a bar that the average person can't afford anymore.
Candy?
Pretty amazing the difference. Mel, I just want to quick say there is someone in the chat room that wants to say that he hopes all is well with you. Just want to make sure you saw that. Giving love to Mel there. But it's amazing sports. And I shouldn't say just sports. Any auctions, there are some significant money to be had, and for things that I don't normally think you would pay that much for. We've seen it all over the place, but yeah, $112,000 for the headset. Obviously, the proceeds from this record-setting sale benefit Indiana's name, image, and likeness. So it'll be interesting to see what that buys them.
Mel?
His headset selling for how much, you said?
$112,600.
It sold for that, or that's what it's on the market for?
It sold. It went for auction at that price.
That's nice. I mean, everything's for sale, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if he put a pair of his drawers up for sale, I'm sure somebody would buy those for the right number as well. $50,000 probably. I think used pair of championship drawers got to go for $50,000. So I'm sure somebody would love to wear them on top of their head as well.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say something like that. I've known you too long, far, and that was pretty classic. It really was. That was. It threw me off my thought here. It doesn't take much to do that these days. The Falcons actually hired Bob Quinn as a senior advisor. Jeremy, obviously your favorite executive, Bob Quinn.
As long as all he's doing is scouting offensive linemen, the Atlanta Falcons will be fine.
Okay, Candy?
Yeah, I mean, kudos to them. Hopefully he doesn't have much success there.
Sorry, Samir.
Yeah, right. Well, he's in your town now, Mel. We had to deal with him in Michigan. So, what do you think, Mel? About Bob Quinn? He's in your neck of the woods.
Who's that? Bob Quinn, you said? Who?
Yeah.
Bob Quinn is a part of the Falcons.
Oh, who's Bob Quinn? Help me out here. Is he related to Dan Quinn? Who is he?
Bob Quinn was the GM that hired Matt Patricia in Detroit.
Oh, that was him?
That was him.
Mm-hmm. What's it? And what is he? He's did Matt Ryan hire him?
Yeah, Matt Ryan hired him, but he was the national scout for the Patriots before he became the GM of the Lions in 2007. The year they fired Caldwell because 9-7 wasn't good enough.
Okay. Wow.
But at the same time,
good luck to them. I mean, they brought in Tua, to back up Michael Penix. I mean, look here. I live in Atlanta. I'm not an Atlanta fan. I watched Atlanta when Michael Vick was here because Michael Vick was must-see TV. Amazing. Other than that, I could really care less about the Falcons. They're going to be I think they're in for a rude awakening. I'm not really impressed with the coach that they hired. I'm not really impressed with the fact that they brought in Tua. I don't think there's anything to really be excited about here. You just took a retread, somebody who was fired at Cleveland, and then he all of a sudden becomes the top guy on your list. There's a reason why he was fired at Cleveland, kind of similar to, how the Jets probably felt when they went out and grabbed Adam Gase after he got fired from Miami. I mean, there's a reason why Adam Gase got fired, and he did a lousy job in New York. And I don't know what this guy's going to do here in Atlanta, but I can't say just based on the last 3 years that I'm optimistic that he's going to do anything differently than what he's done the last number of years.
Well, what I can say in the track record of the 4 years he drafted for Detroit, what he did do right: Taylor Decker, Graham Glasgow, and Frank Ragnow, and Jonah Jackson. That was his picks that were good here in Detroit. Other than that, he didn't do much. God forbid, do not let him scout a defensive back, because Lakuda and Omawarie were awful.
There you go. Okay. All right. Let's turn our attention to. We'll turn our attention to the legacy of Ty Simpson. He said he turned down the NIL offers from $4 million to $6.5 million, which Miami did offer him in the transfer portal because he didn't want to tarnish his legacy for another school. But the story goes on that he did declare for the draft, obviously, in January. So let's just talk about Ty Simpson, Jeremy, in general. He's going to be a guy that we're definitely be hearing during the draft. Again, $6.5 million from Miami wasn't bad. They were offering it to him, but he didn't even go with that either.
I don't know what legacy he's trying not to tarnish. Did Alabama win a national championship with him at QB? The answer is no. So I would have taken that deal because he's slated as a day 2 pick. If he's picked in the first round and expected to start this year, he's making a mistake.
Candy?
Yeah, he said he wanted to sit down and talk about it. He goes, I actually talked to Coach Saban about it. Things he was talking about were, do you want to play football in college or do you want to play football professionally? And he was like, take the money out of it. Take the rounds out of it. What do you want to do next year? And he said, I want to play professional football. And he goes, well, then there's your answer. Do what you want to do, how you think you're going to get there. So
you're saying that Nick Saban had a lot to do with this decision?
Yeah, that he talked to Coach Saban about it. Correct.
Okay, that's good. All right, Mel?
I think he looked at the landscape. The quarterback, it's not a very quarterback-rich draft. If he would have stayed in another year, he could have had the same thing happen to him that happened to the kid at LSU, that happened to Caleb Klubnik, that happened to
Drew Allard,
the kid down in Miami. Where they all fell in the draft. Where their stock has dropped. The kid from Miami that transferred to Georgia, I can't think of his name right now. He was slated to be a number 1 draft pick. Nussmeier was slated to be a number 1 draft pick. Colin Cowherd loved Caleb Klubnik, thought he was going to be the first round draft pick. And all those guys stock dropped because those, the teams, well, except for Miami, they played very well. But for the most part, with Clemson and LSU, those teams did not perform very well. And so next year, you got Arch Manning that's going to come out, who's been the number 1 draft pick since he was a senior in high school. He's been the number 1 overall player that's going to be drafted regardless of whether he played it down or not in college football. You got the kid coming out. You got Dante Moore coming out of Oregon. And there's some other kids that I probably don't know their names, but they're going to pop up as well. So he looked at the landscape. This was the best opportunity for him. He's slotted at being the second best quarterback on the draft board right now. So, being the second best quarterback in the draft board, he has an opportunity to go in the late round. Now, he could go anywhere from 10 from 10 to 40. Anywhere in there, just depends on the team's need. When Pittsburgh drafted, the kid out of Pittsburgh in the mid-teens, nobody saw that coming. He probably didn't deserve to go that high, but they needed a quarterback. They needed a quarterback badly. and they reached for him, and it, unfortunately didn't work out for him. So I just think he looked at the landscape and made a business decision. He's going to play professional anyway at some point one day. He said he didn't want to tarnish his reputation because he didn't want to go to another school. He went to Alabama to play for Nick Saban. Coach Saban ultimately retired, but he kept his commitment to the University of Alabama. That's where he wanted to go to school, and that's what he wanted to be remembered by was as a member of the Alabama Crimson Tide. He didn't want to go somewhere else. So when he's talking about tarnishing his image, he just didn't want to go somewhere else like some of these other kids and hop from one school to another school to another school. He wanted to play at Alabama. He played at Alabama. He got an opportunity to start at Alabama, and he has an opportunity. He could have continued his career. Could have got some big time NIL money, but he decided he looked at the landscape and said, "Hey, it's best for me to come out now as opposed to waiting another year." It's just a business decision.
I give him a lot of credit. We got rapid fire the next three topics to get to Ballrick to take us home. All right. So here's what we're going to start. We're going to start off with the fact that the Chicago Bears traded wideout DJ Moore to the Buffalo Bills for 2026 second round pick. Buffalo gets Moore in a 2026 fifth round pick. Moore obviously was the number one receiver for 1,364 yards, 8 TDs in 2023. His production dipped the past two seasons, but he gets the play with Josh Allen. All right, Jeremy, rapid fire. You know that drill. Who gets the best of this trade?
Which trade was that?
DJ Moore going to Buffalo.
I think Buffalo got the best of this trade because look at what Chicago gave up to get him. They gave up the number one pick overall, which the Panthers took Bryce Young that year. So if you look at, they didn't get back as much in draft capital as they gave up to get him. And I think it's going to work out great because now Buffalo has a true number one wide receiver.
Great stuff. Okay, Candy.
Yeah, I don't know. The Bears traded wide receiver DJ Moore for fifth round pick and a second round pick, right? So they allowed Chicago to gain draft capital and restructure their salary cap while giving Moore a new high impact role with quarterback Josh Allen. So I'm going to say Chicago probably.
Okay, Mel.
Yeah, I really haven't analyzed it that deeply. I'm not real. I don't know a lot about DJ Moore. How many receptions did he have last year? Did he get 60, 80 receptions last year? I mean, was he a number one or was the other guy the number one? Was he a number one receiver, DJ Moore? I mean, I know they traded for him with the thought that he would be the number one receiver. I think prior to Caleb getting there, or when Caleb got there, I can't remember. I don't know if Chicago. I don't think the fit, for whatever reason, I don't think that fit was worked for him in Chicago, especially with the new coach coming in. It just it's really going to depend on what who they draft. With that draft pick that they traded for. Who does Chicago draft with that draft pick that they got from Buffalo, and then you can really say who won that trade.
Okay, well that's fair. I can live with that. The Raiders defending quarterback Geno Smith and the 2026 seventh round pick to the Jets in exchange for a 2026 sixth round pick. Smith returning to a team which he started his NFL career in 2013. Rapid fire. Will the second time Jeremy be the charm for Geno Smith in New York?
I don't know if this is going to work out in New York. Geno Smith looked awful behind a porous offensive line. This offensive line does need some work there in New York. I just Geno Smith, he did great with Pete Carroll when their offensive line was good in Seattle. The next year he kind of floundered, even though they barely made the playoffs. And then they missed the playoffs with him under McDonald's first year coaching there. So and then he goes to the Raiders and falls on his face. Maybe this is the Geno Smith we've all known he's been ever since he came out of college.
Okay, Candy.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look at the team he's going to. Is this going to be? I mean, we all talk about going to the Jets and how the Jets have ruined everybody else since their famous quarterback. But I mean, Rodgers couldn't do it there. What makes us think Geno Smith is going to be able to do it there?
Well, I get to play for Aaron Glenn, haha. But the best thing he's got going for him is Frank Wright. Go figure. Maybe Frank can fix him. Mel?
I don't think Geno's broken. I mean, he's a serviceable starting quarterback in the NFL. This term franchise quarterback, I really don't know what that means. He's gonna. One thing we know is going to turn it loose. He's not going to do like Justin Fields and drop back and just hold on to the ball and then tuck it and run. He will turn it loose, and I think that's going to give guys an opportunity to make plays in the outside. And I think that's all Aaron Glenn wants is somebody to just turn it loose, loosen up the defense a little bit so that they can run the football effectively with Breece Hall, play some good defense, maybe give them an opportunity to win some games. That offense they had out there last year, they didn't have an opportunity to win any games with, and I love, Justin Fields, man, but he just can't play the position. I've said that before. For whatever reason, he just can't seem to play the position at the NFL level. I wish him the best of luck out there in Kansas City. Maybe he'll learn something from Patrick Mahomes and he'll get an opportunity, somewhere again down the line. But Geno, he resurrected his career in Seattle. I'm sorry, this is rapid fire, but I think that that's the best option that they had. What else could they do? The Jets. What else could they do?
All right, final topic of the night, and then we turn it over to Jeremy, doing really well. Cowboys are acquiring Rashawn Gary, former Michigan Wolverine. Green Bay gets a fourth-round pick in 2027. Gary actually has been with the Packers for 7 years. The 28-year-old topped out in double-digit sacks in a Pro Bowl in 2024. His season-high sack, 9.5 sacks in 2021. All right, Candy, your thoughts about Rashawn Gary, a Cowboy, and maybe what the return could be for the Pack.
I mean, you never know because when you're dealing a pick later on, but Rashawn Gary has done a lot for the Packers. He did restructure his contract to lower his cap hit to roughly $5.44 million for the 2026 season. He's expected to bolster Dallas's pass rush. He wasn't always healthy in Green Bay, but he did. I mean, he had 46.5 sacks over 7 years, so he's definitely going to be missed on the Packers.
Now,
your question was about Rashawn Gary. What was it about him? Because he got traded. He got traded during the season last year, right? Yeah, he got traded.
No, he got traded this offseason.
Oh, he got traded this offseason. What they trade him for? A pick?
He got a fourth-round pick in 2020.
Yeah. Dallas is doing everything they can to try to bolster their defense after they let Micah Parsons get out of there. Right. Offensively, they can compete with anybody. They just have to be able to stop some people. And you just look at, you look at the league. We know it's a copycat league, right? You look at how Seattle played defense. Their defense was lights out. So everybody wants to try to duplicate what Seattle did. They were able to run the football effectively, and they played great defense. So the Cowboys know that they're kind of porous on that side of the ball. They can compete with anybody on offense. If it was just an offensive game, if you're just playing 7-on-7 and it's just offense, they can compete with anybody. But they have to be able to stop somebody. In the NFL, you got to be able to stop somebody. So that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to bolster up that defense.
Yeah, funny how you say that, Mel, because it almost looks like they traded like Micah Parsons for Rashawn Gary when you think about the pass rushers involved. I'm glad you brought it up in that context. All right, Jeremy, you have the last word on this topic. Then you have your final co-pilot, whatever you have going, and then we're going to wrap the show up. We have about 7 minutes to finish up. Okay, Jeremy? Go ahead. Some thoughts on this trade, Jeremy.
Yeah, no problem. Rashawn Gary, he'll be a good pass rusher, but he needs someone opposite him. If you look what he did with the Packers, he was solid, but he wasn't great prior to Parsons getting there. he had a great year with Parsons there until it looked like he quit on the season. I think it was right after the Thanksgiving game, even before Parsons got hurt.
Okay. All right, go ahead. Take it away. You have something else you want to add as we get ready to wrap it up? Well, I should point out the next time you'll see Inside the Pigskin will be on May 19th. So we have a lot of great episodes here the last few weeks. Get you ready for the draft. So feel free to go ahead and check them out again as we also had a lot of good soundbites. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Okay, well, that visual I have there was my latest mock draft. I actually got an A- grade overall. I went with Spencer Fanu at 17, Gabe Akis at 50, at 118, which is actually the fourth round, but it is what it is. Oscar Delp out of Georgia. I went with the defensive tackle I talked about, who should be a day 3 prospect just off of his numbers alone. UR Bernard. I went with Kendall Daniels, the cheetah linebacker out of Oklahoma, the 6'5", 242-pounder. Robert Spears Jennings, a good safety, also out of Oklahoma. Julian Neal, the speedy cornerback out of Arkansas. Tanner Koziel, tight end out of Houston. And Jack Strand, quarterback out of MSU Moorhead. Because with the last pick in the 7th round, you're looking at a project player. You're not looking at a starter. And this is a guy that's 6'5", 240, has decent athleticism, moves well in the pocket, and elite arm elasticity, and set a record in Division II with MSU Moorhead with throwing 115 touchdowns in 2 years.
Is that it? Great stuff, Jeremy. So, all right, so here's what we're going to do right now. Candy, why don't you give everybody a preview of what's on tap tomorrow and Thursday? And Jeremy, you're going to also give a preview of what you're going to be doing on Thursday night as well. Obviously, you're pretty much my designated co-host here on this show. But we'll, Candy, start off with what's left with our week. We have the 3 shows left on our end. Go ahead, Candace.
So you have Motor City Mad Mouse Show. You have 2 episodes tomorrow?
Correct.
2. And then you have Sports Exchange at 9 p.m. And then on Thursday, you are doing sports rap. Or are you doing hockey or soccer?
That looks like a hockey show.
So you're going to be doing hockey on Thursday night. And then you can all tune in to Mr. Jeremy's because we will be taking a little break.
No, fire up. Jeremy, take it from there. What are you doing Thursday night?
Well, since Fire Up isn't going and it is the NFL draft, while they get ready to travel out of the country to go to Portugal, I believe it was.
That's where I started.
will be hosting my 5th NFL draft coverage where I go over each pick and give my opinions on the draft prospects. I don't really do draft grades like you see from these websites that you get them from, because I personally feel until year 3, every team deserves a C grade.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm not a mock draft guy. I think it's nothing more than a guessing game, and that's it. My opinion only. Not saying yours isn't any good. It's just mock drafts to me are like fantasy football. Okay, I want the real thing, baby.
Oh, I understand what you're saying, but once the Lions got where they were out of the playoffs, and I considered that with the loss to the Rams, I had that mock draft was the 96th one I've done since that loss.
I'll tell you, Ballard, you're way better than I am. All I did was just get sound bites from the Senior Bowl and all that.
Hey, no. You're amazing, Scott, at what you do. I just do what I do. It's It's 2 different forms, but neither one of us are any less than the other. How's that?
No, you're great at what you do. I just like to stick my microphone in somebody's grill and ask questions. It might rub some people, PR people, the wrong way, but I got to tell you, that style works well with the Miami Hurricanes. They're pretty good, right, Candy? What was Mr. Gorby saying? Hey, keep them busy, do whatever he wants. Those that restrict me, we become enemies. Those that leave me alone, we become friends. Candy, tell them the relationship real quick I developed with you.
You got a good relationship. They credential you for just about everything, Scott.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I like sticking my micro. So we've tried to equip a lot of people with a lot of our sound bites as well. So meanwhile, Mel, you're getting a few weeks off from us. How does that feel? You put in a little extra work tonight, and now we're rewarding you with close to 4 weeks. Any thoughts
Yeah,
there?
well,
You won't have to hear me for a
you guys have
while.
a safe trip. You guys have a safe trip. I hear there's topless beaches in Portugal. I have been there. I've been to the topless beaches. You guys be careful over there.
Like I'm gonna have time to get to those. We're gonna be in and out of there in a day and a half, and that's about it. Candy, just real quickly for the audience, give them a few other picks. We're gonna probably hit real quick, a minute or two to go.
So we fly off to Portugal. We catch the cruise in Portugal. We will head to another spot in Portugal, a couple in Spain, including we're going to take a tour of a soccer stadium in Spain. We're going to do a beer museum in Spain. We're going
Got to go to a bullfight too. Got to go to a bullfight.
Oh,
I don't have
I don't know
time.
I've
about
been to
that.
Spain too. You got to go
That
to the
wasn't an
bullfights.
excursion for that. Otherwise, I would have done it. I did it in Mexico.
And then in France, we're going to do a wine tasting. We're going to go to Germany. We're actually going to see the Berlin Wall. And then we go to Amsterdam. We're going to go to Holland, Belgium, and then end in London and then fly back home.
That sounds like fun. You guys going to you going to see the stadium too?
Which stadium?
In Berlin, the Olympic Stadium.
I don't know about that.
I
I know.
It's
we're. I think
excursion, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't know what it's going to be with the Eiffel Tower, but we're going to definitely be in there. And yours truly, since I won't be on the air with all of y'all, my voice is going to probably go out there and be worn out after the 50 or 75th or 100th video I get done with these vocal cords. But it's going to be a blast. So meanwhile, I appreciate everybody hanging out with us a little bit longer tonight. And, go out there and pay Jeremy a visit on Thursday night. Get better. I trained this guy. I did, but he can tell you, he's a quick study. He's my student. I'm telling you, I'm proud of Ballrick. Proud of Mel, too. Proud of Candy and Tom. He's a great friend, and everybody else that participates on the network. So, all right, Jeremy, give us your closing thoughts, and Candy will give us, and then everybody will know how they get hold of him, and Candy will take us home with a final station break. Go ahead, Jeremy.
As I always say, try every day to be a better person than you were the day before, because that's the only way to make the world a better place. Make sure you check out my NFL Roundtable Talks, where I will have a panel of guests with other teams as well as other Lions fans. And we will be doing what I call my Mock-a-Palooza, where we do 2 mock drafts with everybody, and them being the GM of their team, and one with trades, one without. It's a blast. If you enjoy the mock draft thing, if you enjoy watching people like Kuiper, McShay, and all the others that do it for everybody else, that's what I do.
Yeah, let them know how to get a hold of you next.
And you can find me here at the South Florida Tribune every Tuesday night. They go live with Inside the Pigskin, every Thursday night with Fire Up, and occasionally if Scott calls me and has a stray hair on any of his other shows as well. And then you could find me also on the SouthFloridaTribune.com, where I write about the Lions, and I have a plethora of draft profiles. I think it's up to 3 pages worth now. Might go to 4 after this one by 1. So and that is the UR Bernard profile. And then, of course, you can find me on my YouTube channel, which is the KCB Sports Network, where I have programming every day but Sunday, and I plan on keeping it that way.
You learn the word plethora from Candy because that's her favorite word, by the way, because she uses it all the time. All right, go ahead, Mel, real quickly, and then Candy will take us home for her fastest station break on the planet.
Yeah, you can catch me on all the social media. It looks like my Twitter is back up, or X or whatever. I don't know. They kept telling me no, and I just kept hitting the button and telling them to turn me back on again. So it looks like it's back up. So you can find me all the social media at Melfar Jr. Then follow what we have going on for the youth here and in Michigan at melfarsuperstarfoundation.org.
Well, good. Whenever I get on there, I guess I'll have one more follower too now that your account's back in real. All right, Candy, give us a quickie.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons to the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It's written by our host, Scott Motor City Madmouth Morganroth, available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. The audiobook is also out there. Hit up our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. If you'd like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to advertise or be on a show, email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. And last but not least, if you see that red subscribe button, click it, like us, share us with all your friends and family. Turn on your notifications. You're notified every time we go live. Thanks to everybody in the chat room. Back to you, Scott.
All right. Well, that does it for this edition of Inside the Pigskin. We'll be off until May 19th. So hope everybody enjoys a little bit of a break. But I promise you, we'll be loaded with topics when we return. We'll be back a little before, but we're going to do a different show probably on the 12th as well. So that does it for us here. God bless. Have a good night, and see you on this show in about a month. Take care, everybody. Good night.